Welcome to this week in Colerain Cardinals athletics here on wearecolerain.com and ESP Media powered by Sidearm Sports. I'm Jason Griefer. Once again, we're joined by Colerain Athletic Director Craig Euland. Craig, good to talk to you once again. Let's get right into it because we've got a lot of things to discuss here today.
Yep.
Last week in the premiere episode of the podcast, we talked at the top kind of how things have gone as far as the seasons go with COVID protocols, how those implementations have come in. And there's been a lot of behind the scenes work, I know, to pull this off and to really get through a fall season pretty smoothly for your programs. And also through the winter season thus far. There's been a lot of folks behind the scenes who've done a lot of really hard work to pull it off.
Yeah. So, we started this process back in June. Our fall team started the first week of June. Our winter team started right after that. And we had implemented a policy for our student athletes and our coaches to go through a daily screening process. So we are a Google district, and Google is it's been very good for us in terms of implementing kind of new things and new technology with COVID. So our student athletes and our coaches fill out what's called a Google form every day. It's a survey. They answer 5 questions, related to COVID, about having symptoms and if there's anybody in their family that they've been exposed to that's been positive. So they fill this out every day for every practice, for every game. And we've been doing this since June. So here we are, January 19th. And there are 2 individuals that are very instrumental in this process with the daily screening. And that's our 2 athletic trainers, our head trainer, John Martini, and our other athletic trainer, Linda Clark. They screen our kids and our coaches every day. They come down to the training room, they fill out the survey on their smartphone, and they get a temperature taken by our trainers, and they keep a log, an accurate log of all of these screenings. And I just checked this morning, and they have completed 46,700 screenings since June 1st. So if you can imagine, a football team's got 100 and something kids, and they're doing it every day since June until the football season's over, and you throw in all the other sports, volleyball, soccer, and now basketball, bowling, swimming, they're all taking temperatures, they're all doing screenings, and it's kept our contact tracing at a minimal. It's kept kids healthy, it's kept coaches healthy, and like I said, 46,000 screenings since June 1st. That's a lot, but it wouldn't have been possible without the help of John and Linda, so we're very thankful for the 2 of them.
Would a fall or winter sports season even have been feasible for you had those 2 not started everything in the beginning of June and carried it through on a daily basis until we're talking now?
Yeah, I mean, I was down there every day in the month of June helping them, and it's a process, and there was a little bit of learning curve. Kids had to get used to carrying their smartphone, arriving to the training room, right when they report to campus, and then they would put their phone down and lock it away in their locker and go off to practice. But yes, I mean, it's wearing the mask every day when they show up for the screening. It's getting a temperature taken. It's filling out the survey. So yeah, it was a daunting task, but now it's just second nature. Kind of what we talked about last week. A lot of the things that we implemented, it's just second nature, and they're just used to doing it every day.
Can you repeat that number one more time, or how many scans they've done since June 1st?
Yes, 46,700 and I think 63 is the total number as of today. So
just think about that, folks, and for fans who are able to tune in and watch Cardinals athletics, that it takes that level of work behind the scenes to pull this off so that we can enjoy the athletics programs that we see and we get to talk about here on the podcast. So definitely right. a big thanks to those 2, especially for getting this done on a daily basis, for the last 6.5 months to get it off here. So let's move on. Let's talk about some of your athletic programs here. Let's start off first with boys basketball. And we talked last week about how it's been just a flat out difficult season, and there's no real way to kind of turn that one around. But they did finally see some of the work they've been putting in pay off. You get to pick up win number 1 of the season in overtime over Sycamore. So they're able to get one there. Pretty high scoring game too, 77-71 result. The next day, tough one against Lakota East. Coming off of an overtime game, a tough way to bounce back there. But nevertheless, they finally get to see the payoff of all their hard work and some of the tough times they've had to go through. Uh, Culminate in a win. How was the team coming out of that game, and even coming into this week, where they're still feeling pretty good? The way they've got a win fresh in their minds.
Yeah, I mean, Friday night was really special. It was one of those nights that I wish everybody could have been there from the community. With COVID, our attendance is very restricted, but they came out hot Friday night. It was senior night. We had 7 cheerleaders and 6 basketball players that we recognized, so I think they were pretty amped up. Like I said, they came out hot. They took advantage of the Aviators early on, and as the game went on, they kind of fell behind 3 points, 4 points, 6 points here and there, and then they clawed their way back in the fourth quarter. Never gave up. The effort was there all night. I think they played a very fundamentally sound game all night, and then we were fortunate enough to be in a situation to tie the game as time was expiring. Caden Meadows, who's a sophomore for us, had a really big night and obviously tied the game as the time expired, sent it into overtime, and we took care of business in overtime and won, I think, 77-70. So it was a great night. Like I said, it was one of those nights that you just wish everybody could have been a part of. Obviously they've put in a lot of work and dedication over the last 12 months, 16 months with Coach Cosgrove, and it was a great victory. And like you said, to turn around the very next day and play a very good team like Lakota East, that's obviously a challenge. And coming off of an overtime game and a late night the night before, tough match always against Lakota East, one of the best teams in the city. So they got Fairfield tonight at home, and we'll see what we can do, see if we can take care of business and kind of keep the energy rolling.
Over on the girls' side, right now, fourth in the GMC at 6-4 on the season, coming off of a tough one against Mason. But Mason's proven to be one of the better teams in Cincinnati. They're unbeaten right now. They and Princeton at the top of the GMC at 7-0. Played Princeton not too long ago and played them close. Only fell in that game by 4 points. So you're not that far off there, and you've got Lakota West right in front of you in the standings as well. But you also have coming up here a couple of games in the league, at least schedule wise, we're looking at here with Oak Hills and Fairfield, and they're towards the bottom of the league right now. Fairfield hasn't won a game on the season. Oak Hills is just 3-7 in league play. Do you look at these two games as ones that are basically must wins? You got to take care of business here if you're going to try and stay within shouting distance of Mason and Princeton.
Yeah, definitely. I think our coach and our kids are looking forward to trying to continue that high level of play and get a couple more wins under our belt as we get closer to the end of the season. They picked up a win last week against a very good Sycamore team, which kind of catapulted them into third place alone in the GMC or fourth place. And I think I had this conversation with my coach about the expectations are definitely they're there. They're higher than they used to be, and our kids know that. They don't talk about it all the time because they're trying to focus one game at a time. But they know they're a good team. They can play with anybody. And this past weekend, Mason, I think they're number 7 in the state. So it's a very tough matchup for them this past weekend. But it was probably an off day for them. But I think they're looking forward to bouncing back this week and trying to get a couple more wins.
Well, even to that point there with that Mason team, you said as good as they are, you held them 10 points below their season average on the year. And so your defense continues to do very strong work. You talked about that Sycamore game, in that one, you hold them to just 26 points on the game. They only made 10 shots the entire game. So a really strong defensive effort. Is that going to be the calling card of this team going into the back half of the GMC season?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's defense and turnovers. If they can keep their turnovers to a minimum, I think they can beat just about anybody. And then defensively, they're really good rebounding team. I'd say probably one of the best in the league, and they do a really good job of scoring in transition. So like I said, if they keep their turnovers to a minimum, they play good defense, they get rebounds, I think they'll be all right.
Let's switch gears here and let's go to a different type of hardwood. Let's go to the bowling lanes and let's start with the boys first. They remain in a four-way tie atop the GMC after a pretty comfortable win over Oak Hill, sitting at 4-1 in the league overall. You've got three matches at least scheduled right now between now and the time we next talk, and also the Cardinal Classic on Sunday. We'll touch on the Cardinal Classic here in just a moment, but you've got Marymount, Sycamore, and Middletown, at least all on the schedule as of now. Of course, we know things can change there, but you get all of them at Colerain Bowl. And you talked last week how that's nearly a stone's throw away from the high school. So that's a nice luxury to have for you. How big of an advantage can that be? For your team, knowing that they can walk to Colerain Bowl if they want. They're so familiar with it, especially when that Middletown match arrives, because they're one of the other teams that are sitting at 4-1 in the league right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean they've always been a great partner, Colerain Bowl with the bowling team at Colerain High School. They're like you said, they're right down the street. Our kids can practice there. Our when the facility is available, and they're always pretty flexible with our request, even during COVID right now. But to pick up two more GMC wins this week at home at Colerain Bowl would be great. It'd be great just to kind of prepare for the end of the season and get ready for a tournament run, sectional district tournament run. Middletown, like you said, is another team at the top of the league, and to play at home, yeah, I mean it's a big deal. It's a big deal for bowling because to travel 45 minutes up to Middletown is a little, could be a difference in the matchup or the game. So I think they're looking forward to the three home games this week, the two league games, and then hopefully next week. I think they play their arch rival interdistrict with Northwest High School. So yeah, they're looking forward to this week, and then like you said, this weekend is the Cardinal Classic annual bowling tournament that we host at Colerain Bowl.
Yeah, we're just about ready to talk about that with the girls too, because they've got Middletown coming up, but they'll be there in the Cardinal Classic as well. Kind of for those who maybe aren't fully up on Colerain bowling, what take us through the Cardinal Classic? The significance of it for Colerain High School and everything that goes into putting it together, because you're going to bring in quite a number of schools here to compete in this thing.
Yeah, we've been doing it for the last few years, and it's actually a fundraiser for our bowling program. So it's a great event. We used to host the boys and the girls on the same day. Because of COVID, we've split it up to girls on Saturday, boys on Sunday. So that'll be a slight change this year. It takes a lot of volunteers to pull it off. Our bowling parents do a great job. Our coaches do a great job. The organization of hosting a bowling tournament with all those teams wouldn't be possible without parent volunteers, the parent support, and honestly, like I just mentioned before, the support of Colerain Bowl. They've been a great partner for us, and we're fortunate to have them close by.
And we'll certainly be excited to see how both your teams turn out in that one. You brought up a good point there that I think is something I also want to give recognition to in this time when we can't have the full attendance. Some athletic programs they can have up two parents or two family members per student athlete to attend these types of things. How invaluable is it for you to be able to call on parents for your bowling teams, for other winter sports, to be able to come in and give of their time to help these kids out, to be able to put on these events?
Yeah, I mean, like you just said, I mean, it wouldn't be possible for any of our events, without parent support and volunteers. Just to quickly mention, when we host home events on our campus, wrestling, basketball, we've been one of the schools that are been fortunate enough to be, approved by Hamilton County to sell concessions. So we still have an open concession stand, which all that money directly goes back to Colerain Boosters, which impacts the student body and the athletics in Colerain High School. And we don't operate a concession stand without parent volunteers. So, in a typical year, we'd make a decent amount of money on our concession stands, but this year with limited attendance, we're not making as much, but we are still making money that will directly impact the student athletes at Colerain High School.
And a big shout out to them for those folks giving of their time to be able to support those endeavors for sure. Let's move on. Let's talk about your academic quiz team. They're just getting their season going here, but 4-0 on the year, two comfortable wins last week over Middletown. And so, they're off to a good start here. Oak Hills is coming up here. They're 2-2. And then you've got Sycamore lurking in a couple of weeks. And we kind of talked a little bit last week about how this league shaped up a year ago and how Sycamore went 17-1. Everybody's looking at them. Fairfield was 17-1 a year ago. Both two very, very strong teams here. So one of the things I also want to ask you and get your perspective on is the academic quiz teams is a sport that I don't know that a lot of people may see a lot of enjoyment from. I think that a lot of people have the perception of the kids just keeping their nose into a book, flipping pages, trying to remember as much information as they can, reading things online and what have you to try and retain all this information. How much fun do these student athletes get out of these quiz competitions against other schools?
No, it's a really big deal for our kids. Last year, obviously there was high expectations. They were excited about the season, and they finished the season right there behind the first place Fairfield and Sycamore team. But there was a lot of excitement at the beginning of the season last year, and some of the students on the team actually reached out to myself and our principal, Jack Fisher, about, hey, would you guys be interested in doing a student versus staff quiz match?
All
And
right.
so, just for the record, last year, the administrators had a team, and then we also had a select group of teachers had a team, and we
Huh?
had a try match. We had a try match quiz match with our students. And I'll just be honest, the questions that they answer on a weekly basis are some of the most difficult questions you'd ever come by or ever think of. And that's a testament to the kids and how much effort they do put in the off season, which, kind of sounds crazy, but they do a lot of studying up on all the different categories that are in a quiz match, from music theory to, science, history, math. There's definitely English in there, and yeah, it's a really big deal. And that was the first quiz match that I'd ever actually been a part of and played in, and it was really fun. And honestly, it was a lot of fun. Our administrators got together, and I think I'm pretty sure the students beat us. I think the group of the group of teachers, I think, gave the students a run for their money. But
Uh-huh.
you can't beat them. They're good, they're smart, and they put in a lot of work. So
What were your expectations going into that compared to how it was actually competing? Did you maybe just have more fun than you maybe thought you would have?
yeah, I went in thinking like, oh my gosh, they're probably gonna ask. There's gonna be a lot of tough questions that I probably haven't thought of since my high school days. With Shakespeare and music theory and stuff like that. But no, it was fun, and there are some questions that, I like to say that I knew the answer right away, which made me feel good. But it was definitely very challenging, and it's like I said, it's kudos to our kids and our coaches who
Yeah.
do a really good job, because like I said, they were excited last year, they're excited this year, and hopefully
Yeah.
they can win the GMC this year.
Well, and it makes things even more fun and exciting when you're winning, and that's what they're doing right now. It's still early in the season, but 4-0 start, and only three teams in the league are there right now, so that's a good way to get things going. Let's move on and let's jump into the pool, because it was a pretty big night over the weekend. You had a meet over the weekend for your team to compete in, but it was also senior night as well, and I know that's we take that, and it's a little more special this year because of everything that's gone on around us. And a lot of fall sports would move up their senior days just to ensure that we have one. The swimmers were able to have their day this past weekend as well. First of all, how did you think your team performed there? And then secondly, how important was it for them, for those seniors, to be able to actually go through the full senior night honors?
Yeah, well, I think I mentioned this last week with swimming. Is it's going to be a tough season for them, because of all the protocols and the shortage of pool time, they're not having the same amount of meets that they normally have.
Yeah.
They only have a few meets during the regular season, and then the GMC meet is coming up in 2 weeks. And then after the GMC meet, obviously it's sectional district state tournament. But that they typically have their senior night in mid-January, so they were fortunate enough to have that this past weekend. I do want to say Powell Crosley YMCA on Winton Road is where we host our meets, and that's where we actually practice this year. They've been very great to work with the last 3 or 4 years. They've always supported us. We host our meets there. We have senior night there. It's a very quality indoor facility for high school swimming, and we're fortunate enough to have a good partnership with them. And it was, I actually was unable to attend this Saturday for senior night, but I typically go every year and talked to my coach. She said everything went well. The kids competed well, and it was a great senior night. And they're actually making a quick turnaround, and they have a meet tonight at Princeton High School over in their new facility. So like I said, they got a shortage of meets this year, but they're trying to make the best of each meet and prepare for the postseason.
And credit to them for still willing to, take on what they can take on in this kind of start and stop type of situation that we're all in right now. And one of the sports we talked about this last week that was going to have similar challenges, or at least the perception was going to have similar challenges, would be your wrestling program. And they've had to deal with just as much as anybody else has thus far this season, but they've got, it looks like they've got a pretty busy slate coming up here in the next couple of weeks here. What stands out most to you in this upcoming stretch, and what's the energy level like inside the program as we're heading into the final month of the regular season?
Well, yeah, this week they got a busy week. They're traveling to Northwest on Thursday, and they host a varsity tri-match on Saturday, which one of those teams is Lakota West High School. And, I think I talked about it last week. The difference this year with wrestling is, normally they have an end of the season tournament for the GMC, but because of the inability to host a large tournament or a large meet in one day because of the COVID protocols, they're hosting a dual match with all 9 other teams in the league. So that's been a big change this year. They're trying to find, common dates that they can wrestle, because in wrestling, you only have a certain amount of points that you can wrestle in a season. So they're trying to be strategic in how they schedule their dual meets or their tri meets. And a lot of their matches are tri matches. So they'll have a GMC school like Lakota West, and they'll also have a non-league school with West Claremont this Saturday morning, so they can see some other teams outside the GMC, but at the same time, they're trying to accomplish playing a regular season schedule, which has never been done before in wrestling because there's always been an end of the season tournament. So yeah, the next few weeks in wrestling is going to be really critical leading up to the postseason. And you had mentioned energy. There's definitely a lot of energy right now within the wrestling program. Last week, they are ranked number 4 in the city, and they got bit by the injury bug a little bit. But they're hoping to be back to close to full strength in the next week or so. And like you said, they got some big matches coming up, and the energy is definitely there.
And that's certainly a good thing, and hopefully it manifests itself in some more strong performances from your team as they go forward in the next few weeks. Again, a lot of wrestling to be had coming up here as well, for sure. So we're winding down here the show today, and this is the winter season, so we're talking about all that. We're talking about all your winter sports teams, but we have a bit of news here to talk about here pertaining to one of your fall sports teams and the fact that you've made a new hire. Do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, boys soccer. So, Mike Wiseman is our new assistant AD. He had stepped down after 5 years of being the head coach and wanted to pursue a role in administration, especially in athletics. So Mike's been a great addition for us, but, we were, kind of sad to see him go, but we're excited to announce that we had made a new hire for our boys soccer program, and that's Eric Rothwell. Very excited about Eric. Eric comes from most recently Elder High School. He was the varsity assistant last year, but prior to that, he was the head coach at Walnut Hills for at least I believe it was 9 seasons. He had a tremendous win-loss record at Walnut Hills, built a very strong competitive program during the time that he was there. Oversaw a middle school program. Colerain, unfortunately, we don't have a middle school soccer program, but, Eric brings that experience of kind of building a program, from the 7th grade all the way up to varsity. To mention about Mike and where he left the program is in great shape. They have high expectations of the boys soccer program. They came off a really big year last year where they came very close to knocking off Mason to go to district championships. They lost 1-0. But they got a lot of returning talent coming back next year. The program, again, is very strong, and it's kind of a pretty smooth transition so far with turning the keys over to Eric, and we're excited to see what Eric does with the program. And I think he's going to put together a pretty strong coaching staff, which will be great for the kids, and we're excited to see where the program goes from here.
So Eric Rothwell is the new head boys soccer coach. Take us through the process in so much you can. How expansive was your search to get yourself a new head boys soccer coach, and ultimately what sold you on Eric as being the guy to lead your program into the future?
Well, I will say, from the beginning, we had some good quality candidates that we interviewed and that we considered, and it wasn't an easy decision. When you got good candidates and when your program's in good shape, you're going to attract good candidates. And I think that's why we are where we are right now with Eric as our new head coach. Obviously, his record speaks for himself. His track record, at Walnut and Elder, and so we're excited about it. And like I said, I think he's going to put together a good assistant coaching staff, and we're excited to see where it goes.
And as you said, inheriting a pretty strong team, 10 win season this past season, pretty darn good, as you said. Challenged. Took Mason all the way down to the wire. Everybody knows how good Mason is in boys soccer. So to challenge him like that, pretty good shape he is to take things even further after the great job Mike's done for the last handful of years. Certainly excited to announce and to discuss that hire here today on the podcast. Craig, certainly appreciate your time here for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and look forward to talking next week.
Absolutely. That is Colerain Athletic Director Craig Ulen joining us for This Week in Colerain Cardinals Athletics here on the all-new WeAreColerain.com and ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.